And a wonderful morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And it's good to be back. And the same, I suppose, could be said of our guest, because he hasn't been here for a while. And to discuss current trending political events and other matters is Professor Rajiv Vijay Singh. Very good morning to you.
Morning for us. Nice to be here after a very long time indeed.
And you've been exploring the Balkans.
Yes, amongst other places. It's been very interesting.
Have you been keeping in touch with what's been going on here?
Yes, I mean with the internet I generally check the papers every morning and find out what's happening. I can't go into great detail obviously, but yes, absolutely.
And you've followed all these the resignations and so on.
Oh yes.
Now there's been some consternation that people are being brought back in.
Right.
Then that's about Tilak Marapan.
Right.
Then we had this event where Ravi Karunanaike resigned.
Right.
And now people are saying, but hang on, he's working out of an office in Temple Trees.
Yes.
Something to do with district development work.
Right.
And then we have a situation where there's a vote of no confidence against Rajat Senratne. And people are thinking, well, really? What's the point? Because they're going to come back anyway. So my question to you is manifold. First of all, is there a sort of gestation period after resignation and prior to being brought back in?
Well, that is certainly possible when your resignation is what might be termed a formality, i.e. you have not been found prima facie or absolutely guilty of a crime. So I think in the case of Tilak Marapana, it was what was called impropriety or a connection with those who might be under suspicion. But I don't think at the time there were actual allegations that he had done something dishonest.
No. I think that's you've got it right. He resigned on his own because apparently he represented.
Right, and of course people in his party, I mean that party is really quite splendid about, throwing people to the wolves whenever possible. So I don't think there was anything wrong about his coming back.
Yes, but
I think the more fundamental question is that him coming back as Minister of Foreign Affairs, given his record as Minister of Defence, when he presided over the LTT bringing in arms and so on, and I think Chandrika, in one of her few moments of activity, actually managed to stop that. You remember the ship that was blown up, and she wanted it searched, and Marapana gave the clean bill of health. So his foreign affairs is a bit worrying, I would say. But I don't see any reason why he should not exercise executive office.
But also, I think in that matter, the target sort of, or the company in the centre of the problem or concern was the AG then decided not to file action against them.
Yes, I think the whole fuss about avant-garde is a clear example of individuals in this government trying to witch hunt and trying to actually destroy a very sensible arrangement that Gotabaya Rajapaksa had reached, which actually put us on the map.
Yeah, but as far as Mr. Marapana is concerned, now that you could say that, look, it went through a certain process and then fine.
Yeah, okay. I have absolutely no objection to Marapana being back in the cabinet.
Then let's examine the case of Ravi K. He hasn't resigned over some sort of legal wrongdoing. There appeared to be, from the evidence that he himself gave at the Commission of Inquiry into the bond, that somebody had paid his rent, in essence, and that of his family. And that was the problem, because that person who had paid the rent, or the companies, were somehow or other affected or a party to the bond transaction.
Well, I mean, Faraz, why are you being so mealy-mouthed? You've obviously got old in my absence.
Yes.
Very clearly, there is much evidence that Arjuna Aloysius together with his father-in-law,
Yeah.
and on the instructions of the Prime Minister, engaged in massive crookedness,
Yeah.
and has stolen a lot of money from this country.
Indeed. But let's just
But
deal
let
with,
me go on.
Yeah.
And he paid the rent for Ravi Karunaka's apartment.
Yeah.
Even if you accept the fact that Ravi Karunaka knew nothing about what his wife and daughter were up to,
Yeah.
and that's a very strong if,
Yeah.
the fact that he continued in that apartment even after Mahinda Alutkamage raised the question.
Now that is the problem. Isn't
So therefore, Ravi is guilty of negligence that makes him grossly culpable, and therefore it was essential that he resign.
Right.
Even though he fought desperately hard not to.
Okay. Now he's resigned.
Yes.
Now we're told that rather like what happened to Arjuna Mahendran when the president didn't give him another contract, or he never was given a contract anyway. He was serving the balance of Mr. Cabral's term. Now we have a situation that rather like what happened to Mr. Mahendran, if you remember, he was paraded about on all official visits and so on, overseas as well, and he was a feature at various meetings connected with the economy and so on. Even though he didn't have a standing to be there. In that same fashion, and the Prime Minister was accused of giving him a sort of backing him, in short. In that same way, now people are saying, well, hang on a minute, Ravi resigned. Did he return all his security allocations, vehicles, whatever, that a minister can have? And did he revert to being merely a member of parliament only, and with the reduced privileges and so on, and security? But why is he, apparently, people say, he's working out of an office in Temple Trees, coordinating some, according to the Sunday Times, coordinating some district development work.
Yes, 20 million to be given
million.
to everybody. I mean,
Is it
even
20
more
million to every parliamentarian?
That's what was reported.
Right. Where is
No.
the money coming from?
Well, presumably perpetual treasuries might be able to afford this from the profits it's made.
This is being given to all the ministries, 20 million.
Well, not the ministries,
All
all the
all
MPs.
MPs.
No, I mean, surely all the points you've just made to me should not be, let us say, alleged. They should be checked.
Yeah.
We have a right to information act.
Indeed.
I know that the Prime Minister has been dodging and dodging and dodging in various ways. Questions put to him about the right to information.
Yeah.
And it is high time that it was made crystal clear that he's behind all this crookedness that took place. And in a sense, that him having to keep Ravi happy, whether through all these perks or not, that's a matter for you all to find out,
Yeah.
is evidence that he has to pay them off.
Is he sort of beholden in some sort of
Of course
way?
he's beholden to them. It is crystal
But how-
clear.
yes, when you say it's
that
crystal
it is
clear.
crystal clear that he was behind the bond scam.
Right.
Arjuna Mahendran has given evidence to that effect.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister's contortions to attempt to defend Mahendran
Yeah.
suggests that he is guilty as hell. The committee he appointed actually made it clear that there were suspicions, but that committee, although they didn't have the gall to say everything was above board,
They did say...
did say there were problems. They had cleared the governor, even though there is a document which came before court,
Yeah.
in which Deepa Seniratna says they are taking this 10 billion on the explicit orders of the governor.
Correct.
So how Ranil's committee of 3 lawyers could have ignored that bit of evidence
Yeah.
and tried to give Mahendra a clean bill of health is
They only-
inexplicable, except very clearly their mandate was to clear Mahendra and muddy the waters. Ranil himself appointed a committee to muddy the waters because their brief was really to try and hang Cabral. And obviously there is no evidence whatsoever of wrongdoing on Cabral's part, and we in COPE actually checked these various allegations that perpetual treasuries profited in his time.
Because Mr. Cabral did come before that first court, didn't he?
No, he didn't come before it, but we asked for
Didn't he
evidence.
write a letter?
He sent letters. I mean, he sent very clear details of how much money or how many bonds had perpetual treasuries had got. and they got almost nothing in his time,
Yeah.
although there were allegations that he was behind it, and even some clowns in the government
Yeah.
who realized that Mahendran and Aloysius, and indeed the Prime Minister, are indefensible on this,
Yeah.
still keep harking back to that. But obviously there is no trace of any wrongdoing. Indeed, on the contrary, Cabral actually guarded the interests of the country by ensuring low interest rates. And one question that I now raise with my good friend Iran Vikramaratne,
Yeah.
who used to claim that the EPF was being exploited because
Yeah.
Cabral made direct placements with them at low interest rates,
Yeah.
but commercial because they were based on the auctions. Now I hope that Iran is actually considering seriously his own position as a gentleman when it is clear that the EPF has been robbed blind by this bunch of crooks.
Indeed, that appears to be the case. That the public monies have been squandered.
And Iran used to sort of say, and I think he was sincere, that the members of the EPF were being deprived of higher interest.
Yeah.
Because Cabral made direct placements there. They were perfectly happy. All the dealers who took those direct placements, and none of them said they were deprived of anything, they all said the rate was perfectly acceptable. Now I hope Iran really wonders about the position of these people whose money was used to push money at perpetual treasuries, and through that at the chief beneficiaries of this scam,
Now,
the United National Party.
so we've had, when the government changed in January 2015, soon after that, there was a spate of investigations and charges and appearing before courts and so on, all to do with abuse of state property. Cars, I remember, seemed to be the biggest mentioned item. The big ticket was the allocation of vehicles, state vehicles and so on. Now, in keeping in that sort of context, when Ravi K decided to resign from his ministerial portfolios and decided to sit in the back benches, should he have reverted fully to the role of a backbencher, including, I'm talking about in terms of privilege. I think when you're a minister, you get far more vehicles and so on. When you're an ordinary member of parliament, you don't. You have a certain allocation. Should that happen?
Well, of course it should have happened. Unfortunately, this government, the last government, and indeed all governments from the time of J.R. Jayawardene onwards, have introduced perks in many guises to members of parliament. Those guises are many, and it is absolutely shameful that this government, which promised structural changes, did nothing about these. Let me give you a simple example. When I became state minister, I was told that there were 14 vehicles at my disposal.
14?
Which SP Dissanayake had got, because he was cabinet minister. But I said, I only want one. Then my drivers actually shouted at me and said, look, you must have at least two as a backup. So I kept two, and I said the others should go into the pool. The day after I resigned, even while Kabir Hashim was pretending that he was not going to accept my resignation, his underlings came to my ministry and took the vehicles. And I still remember Ajit Pereira saying at a parliamentary group meeting where I was talking about the promises in the manifesto, he said, we must get rid of people and appoint our own people because they also need these perks. So government has turned into, and this government is affirming this, a business of perks. You know perfectly well that I never had a vehicle as a member of parliament, but I did have one as advisor on reconciliation. The day, being the only person who had given Mahinda Rajapaksa notice before I supported Sirisena, my vehicle was withdrawn. And I had to work on, I don't possess a car myself, but my driver had an old Fiat. I used to go around in that. So that I think the way this government has behaved on vehicles is shabby. But of course, how can Ravi go back? I mean, we know the lifestyle to which he's accustomed. It's a bit like Ranil. You know, people say Ranil is not corrupt because he doesn't make money for himself. But Ranil Wickremesinghe has lived off the country and lived off the United National Party for the last 40 years.
I have to invoke the Russell Dean clause here and tell you that you must accept responsibility for what you were just saying.
Faraz, have I ever failed to accept responsibility for anything I have ever said or done?
Yes, I have been schooled by Shami Russell Dean on these matters.
Well, I don't see why you all are so mealy-mouthed. After all, whether you all are so mealy-mouthed or not, you will continue to be attacked by Ranil. I was just looking through his speech when the bond scam broke. And his claim was that he had done nothing crooked and Mahendra had done nothing crooked, and it was all the fault of Sirasa and Shiral Laktilakam. So, you know, I mean, the way he throws red herrings, it's a bit like, you know, Agatha Christie. Yeah. When I spoke last week on the bond scam, I said I'll take on the Hercule Poirot thing, and Hercule Poirot always used to say, when you look at the red herrings that are thrown in the way, you know where the guilt lies.
So, back to Ravi K. What's the gestation period?
Well, there shouldn't be, because in his case, there is very clearly wrongdoing.
Right.
Now, so if by any chance, even if an investigation clears Mahendra and Aloysius, I don't suppose they can, you know, charge Ravi K with accepting support from Aloysius for the apartment.
Right.
But it is so clearly wrong for him to have had dealings with Aloysius.
When we mean Aloysius here, we obviously mean the facts are, as presented in court, was that a company in which Mr. Aloysius is connected.
But Mr. Aloysius was actually there with the wife and daughter.
It was only to look...
To represent his company?
No, to represent a friendship. After all, the minister was a busy man, and a friend of the family, in the form of Aloysius, turned up.
And if Mrs. Karunayaka and her daughter had no idea that at this stage Aloysius was deeply involved, well, no, I mean, if they didn't, you know, I remember Hercule Poirot saying, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. I personally don't think it possible that Mrs. Karunayaka and her daughter don't read the newspapers. The daughter, after all, is very au fait with politics and has made it very clear that she knows that her father is actually just a sacrificial lamb and that other people are also responsible. Now, this is not a woman who doesn't know what's going on in the country. So I don't think we can buy Ravi Karunayaka's evidence that his daughter and his wife didn't know about Aloysius's wrongdoings. I mean, he was Minister of Finance. This girl is not a fool.
All right, so now tell me
She's very protective of her father.
Well,
and I sympathize with her.
Yes.
Because very clearly, he's not the only crook in the business. I mean, very clearly. You know, you were talking about the way Ranil uses creatures. Don't forget that the claim Mahendran hid behind was that he was ordered to take all this money in response to an appeal made by people who came to the central bank, which never happened before. Ranil actually announced this, but he left out Malik Samarovikrama, who was amongst those. And what is the common factor between these characters who demanded more money, like Oliver Twist? Officers of the UNP. Two of them admittedly cabinet ministers, one of them only the chairman of the party at the time. So I think this rank dishonesty is patent, and I think it would be highly improper for Ravi Karunayaka to be in any position where he administers government funds, and his present position, if you're correct, is totally improper.
Message from Shamindra Ferdinando, the news editor of the Island newspaper. He says, the second bond scam was far bigger and worse than the first, and it happened after Ravi K's gift, after Ravi K got Arjun Aloysius' payment for the apartment rent. So, you know...
what has happened is outrageous, and I just don't understand why the Daily News, Lalit Alahakun, who is supposed to be a decent man, why he is not highlighting this crookedness. I mean, the other papers are doing their best. But it is very clear
but I must tell you this,
has been
the Daily News,
blind.
yes, the Daily News reporter on site there is filing their reports diligently, very well, actually.
I mean, it is better under Lalita Lahun than it has been for some time.
Yes.
But there should be investigative journalism. But it's not happening, and there should be actual features which deal with the responsibility of all these people
I'm trying
involved.
to get here. Now, is there some sort of... I keep going back to this gestation period, the period in which you lost your ultimate sort of perk or privilege, title, cabinet minister. So, you're pushed out there. But then, I think on the second day thereafter, we saw Ravi K with the Prime Minister somewhere in Kandy or some temple and so on. Of course, nothing you could say, well, he can go to the temple. Of course he can.
So there's nothing wrong with him accompanying the Prime Minister.
No, there's nothing wrong. But
it's absolutely wrong for him to be given.
This is this cloak of respectability that I'm talking about.
How can it be respectable to be seen anywhere with the Prime Minister?
Well, it appears
he's obviously the biggest crook in the country.
No, but Rajiv, the thing is, it's like this. Now that Ravi K is working out of a office, supposedly, at Temple Trees and under the sort of umbrella of the Prime Minister, then, investigators are going to get put off, aren't they not? Are they not? If they want to investigate and fact-check more about Ravi K's involvement in this bond business, and, how come he got this money from a chap who's intricately involved in the bond scams on, then people are going to get put off. They're going to get intimidated, aren't they?
That is clearly Ranil Wickremesinghe's intention. He's a specialist in intimidation, as you know. That's how he tries to control the media.
Yeah.
But this has gone beyond intimidation. They tried to intimidate people like Deepa Seneviratne, that admirable woman.
Absolutely.
They tried to intimidate a lot of people in the central bank, and soon after the election in August 15, a lot of people were transferred.
Yeah.
But you cannot bully all the people all the time. You see, Ranil's problem is he still lives in the day of JR when you had a massive control of everything. There was no free media at all. People forget that it was under Ranasinghe Premadasa that actually the media started. There became variety. Now, Ranil still lives in the days where he thinks he can control things. If you look at the way he reacted to the bond situation, he appointed this Thuttudeke committee. He suppressed their findings when even they couldn't lie to his satisfaction. He ensured that Parliament was dissolved when the Cope Committee was about to be published. He got his friends in foreign embassies to intimidate the President and come out with all sorts of nonsense. And he kept pushing Mahendra's retention. When the Auditor General reported, he actually told me, we'll have to get rid of him. We should have appointed the deputy.
Sorry, he told you we'll have to get rid of the Auditor General?
Yes. You see, the last time I spoke to him was actually told him...
You are talking about Ranil Wickremesinghe.
I'm talking about Ranil Wickremesinghe. I told him, the last time I spoke to him, it was at the Mount Lavinia Hotel, I said, I'm so glad you dropped your objections to Mahendran being got rid of. This was just after Indrajit had been appointed. And he said, why should he have gone? He did nothing wrong. So I said, Ranil, haven't you read the report? He said, well, that man doesn't know what he's talking about. He has said he doesn't understand these things. We should never have appointed him. Now I'll have to get rid of him. He actually said that.
This is an absolute tosh, because the Auditor General has made it absolutely clear that he doesn't delve into sort of speculation, that he deals with facts and figures. And that's why initially he said that he limited his assessment of the losses to the day that it was issued. And he did also say that there could be potentially further losses, but he had limited it to the day on the day.
It's an admirable report, and I must say I was very happy, because when we were doing the investigation in Cope, I was really very impressed with the acting Auditor General's objectivity. I was always impressed with them. I've said it, and I think the Auditor General's department appreciated my work on Cope. As you know, I did the bulk of the work apart from Duke of the Secret. But I told you, I'm a bit... no, Dew told me, and I said they're being very good. He said, the problem is I don't think they'll appoint this chap Auditor General. this chap called Chula, who was the deputy and was acting at the time. And sure enough, he wasn't appointed, and they brought in someone from outside. And I thought, oh my God, he's another of Ranil's lackeys. But he turned out to be an admirable Auditor General. But now, here is Ranil, who stopped Chula being appointed. But Chula's a young man. I hope he'll get the job later on. Ranil now claiming we should have appointed the deputy. So you see what he thinks. Ranil thinks everybody is like him, that you can bribe and buy your way through things.
This is a very serious allegation you're making.
Well, what has happened to this country is a very serious matter. And don't forget, for me, it is even more upsetting. I mean, the other day, when I last spoke, someone who was very close to my uncle and Ranil's uncle, Bishop Lakshman Wickramasinghe, came to said, what would Bishop Lakshman be saying now? You see, my family had a reputation for absolute financial integrity. And I would
Are you saying that that has now been sullied?
That branch of the family, yes. It has been sullied beyond measure. And I do think that my grandparents, were pillars of rectitude, turning in the grave. I think Ranil's mother I don't think Ranil would have dared do this when his mother and my father were alive, because they were figures of financial probity.
Now then, back again to this business about how long should Ravi K be out there without a ministerial portfolio?
Well, I've told you this, that Ravi K should be permanently out there.
So that's what I'm trying to get at. So what you're saying is, Ravi K was elected to this parliament. He won. The people elected him. He was given a job, he resigned because of whatever. Now then, is it fair that, let's say that in the next election, that Ravi K wins back his seat? Does he then deserve to be, and his party is in majority, does he then deserve to be made a cabinet minister again?
No, because this cloud is a very serious cloud. I mean, the UNP should really not give him nomination next time round. He has a lot of strengths, and I think they could be used, but not where public money is concerned. I think that would be a pity. But if they put him back in Parliament, and don't forget there are people far worse
than Ravi
K in Parliament.
Tell me
there
this.
are people far worse than him. I mean, he is actually not in the same league as some of the thugs who are there.
No, that's true.
And Ravi, I'm actually personally fond of Ravi, but I don't think, I said at the time, I thought it was a mistake as finance minister because people have no confidence in him. But the reason he was appointed is Ranil owed him much. But I still think what Suji was saying told me. Suji told me, I don't like Ravi very much, but he was not the person behind the scam. I think that is very, very clear. It was much more, and that's why Ranil took the central bank under himself. And don't forget that Arjun Aloysius, which I didn't know till Mr. Rusarapala pointed this out, Arjun Aloysius resigned from perpetual treasuries shortly after the election, just before Mahendran was appointed. And these Ranil's method of saying, no, there's no conflict of interest.
Right.
But obviously there is, because it's his company. It's disgraceful.
It's so tepid, isn't it, that explanation?
No, it shows a really shallow mind manipulating on the assumption that people can be muzzled. And I say it again, you cannot muzzle figures like the percent. You cannot muzzle the Attorney General's department.
Or the Auditor General's department.
Or the Auditor General. And Ranil's threats of getting rid of Gamini Vijayasinghe.
Yes.
I think are entirely hollow. But thank God that he's
What about the appointment of Talata? Very, very big in the last minute here. What about the appointment of Talata to Korana?
Well, to me it's interesting because it's the first time someone who obviously cannot stand Ranil has been given a senior ministry. I think she's a good woman. She could be, let me say, a bit more perspicacious about some of the things that are wrong with her party. But she's certainly not Ranil's lapdog the way other people in senior positions have been.
So there is some hope. That's the silver lining.
Well, the hope is that the media, the president, the governments of state now get to the real crook behind this crime.
Professor Rajiv Vijayasinghe, as always, it's been a wonderful treat having you on the program. Thank you very much. And we look forward to having you on our network again. But you'll be on the network this evening, isn't it?
Yes, yes. For some reason, you'll have decided after having cut me out for several months.
No, you've been travelling in the Balkans. We can't do Face the Nation with the link from the internet.
I've been here at least half the time, if not 2/3.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
We'll see you on Face the Nation tonight on TV1 at 9:30 with Shami Rasuldeen and company. In the meantime, take care and God bless.
Thank you.